Hey guys, so today is just like a casual video, and I know I haven't posted in forever, but it's fine. But I really wanted to do this, and I have a bunch of vlogs and stuff that are like way backed up, but I'll binge all those. Okay, so for the tier list, I'm basically doing best Britpop albums of the 90s. And so I'm ranking it sort of like based on how much of a Britpop album it is. So like if it's not very Britpop, it's going to get a lower ranking. Also, if it's a good Britpop album. So let us begin. First up is 13 by Blur. This album came out in 1999, so sort of towards like the tail end of Britpop. This one kind of bothered me because, you know, it does have Tender, Coffee and TV, No Distance Left to Run, but it was kind of at like the tail end of Britpop. So I think I'm going to rank it C, just because, you know. Next up is Oasis Be Here Now, and oh boy. So if any of you watch Todd in the Shadows, you may have seen his Train Records episode on Be Here Now. This album is so bad. Like, it's Britpop, definitely, but it was, like, once again, it was, like, kind of at the tail end, late 90s, and it, like, just wasn't a good album. Liam still likes it, which is okay, you think that, honey, but, like, Noel Gallagher and I both agree, and so do most critics, that this album, like, high-key is not good. Like, I like Stay Young, but, like, even I know that, like, the only songs that should last 8 minutes are Justin Timberlake songs and, like, classical music. And that's just some piping hot tea. I'm going to throw it a bone and give it a D tier just because it is, like, still Britpop and it is Oasis. Like, I think it could have been good. And it's definitely not their worst album, but like I said, I'm only doing the 90s because we're not getting into early 2000s Oasis. Oh, look, a friend. Modern Life is Rubbish. Oh boy, where do I put this? So if you're a Blur fan, you know that Modern Life is Rubbish. It has For Tomorrow, Colin Zeal, Chemical World. But yeah, it's really good. I would put it at B tier just because the other songs in the album were pretty like forgettable. That might change. And so next up we have, Park Life. Okay, so let's talk about Park Life. I do really like Park Life. And because of the influence that it has on the genre, I am going to rank it S tier. First S tier of the list, baby. Okay. Coming Up by Suede. That was their album that got released. What year was it? Oh, it was 1996, I think. Yeah. Is the album that brought them back into Britpop because Dogman Star, right here, it kind of was seen as really pretentious, and it sort of set them apart from their Britpop peers when, like, they kind of started the genre, you know? It's a really good Britpop album. It has, you know, like, The Beautiful Ones. It has Film Star. It has Trash. Like, all those, like, bangers, and it is more of a pop album than their first two. But I'm going to put it at A tier because it doesn't have Bernard Butler in the band. And as you all may know, which you don't know, but now you know, that Bernard Butler is... I love him. Next is A Design for Life by the Manic Street Preachers. Okay, so during this era of the band, Nicky Wire said, I fucking hate Britpop. And you know what? He was right. I fully believe that. If you know me, you know that I love the Manic Street Preachers. They're my favorite band ever. And they're kind of Britpop, but also kind of not. Like this album and their fifth album were both like kind of Britpop albums. Not so much This Is My Truth, Tell Me Yours, but like Design for Life was definitely like a Britpop sounding album. The band didn't want to be Britpop and they didn't really distance themselves. So I want to rank it S tier because it's just like a perfect album. But I think I'm going to rank it B tier because it be like that sometimes, you know? Okay. So next is Supergrass, I Should Coco, which I'm going to give it B ranking. That might change. Okay. So Leisure by Blur, that's their first album. It came out in 1991. I also really like the album art. At the same time, I don't really know if Leisure like influenced anybody or if it was just part of Blur's sound and they sort of culminated into Britpop. So I'm going to rank it C. And actually now I'm going to move Be Here Now to F because Be Here Now is way worse than Leisure. Okay. Oh, what's the story? Morning Glory. That's S tier. And so is definitely Maybe. And we don't really need to talk about those. Those are, I mean, it's Oasis. It's their first two albums, which are basically masterpieces. I'm just a slut for the same 4 chords over and over again. Love you, Noel Gallagher. But yeah, those two are S tiers. No arguments. No doubts about it. S tier. Same thing with Pulp, different class. Okay, so, but I know not as many Americans know who Pulp is. Everybody knows the Wonderwall guys. Everybody knows Champagne Supernova. Everybody knows Live Forever. But not many Americans know who Pulp is. So Pulp has been around since the 80s. But when the Britpop wave came around, Pulp just hit it straight on. Like, if you're American, you know Oasis and Blur. But, like, Pulp, they are Britpop. They were Britpop. They were for the working class, but they also had that, like, air of, like, pretension that, like, only somebody who came from nothing could have. You know what I mean? It felt, like, authentic. Pulp was never fake, like Blur. They were always, like, for the people, you know? Why Pulp is so important to, you know, Britpop and, like, British culture. They brought, like, a social stance to the genre and to the movement. So songs like Pencil Skirt, Common People, if you haven't heard that song, listen to it. Disco 2000. I mean, this album won a Mercury Prize. Different class. It's a big deal, okay? So that's why it is going straight to S tier. No doubts about it. And here we have another Pulp album. So this is His and Hers. His and Hers, I think it was also nominated for Mercury Prize. I don't know if it won. I don't remember. But it came out literally a year before Different Class. And it was kind of like, Different Class is sort of like the culmination of everything that Pulp has done. It's kind of their magnum opus, except the thing was that they kept on improving as they went on until like 2003. But that's whatever. His and Hers, it's basically on par with Different Class. It definitely influenced a lot of artists and sort of like was part of like Britpop becoming a staple of culture and as a genre. I'm going to give it an A tier. Yeah, okay, it's an A tier. I'm like that. I'm happy with that. Okay. The Stone Roses. So I told myself I wasn't going to put any like Manchester bands on here, but the Stone Roses, the influence that they had on British music with their self-titled album, kind of incredible. And you won't be surprised to find that many of the bands on this list are influenced by the Stone Roses. But at the same time, it's not a Britpop album. So I'm going to put it at D tier because of its influence and its importance. Yes. Ooh, Elastica. Let's talk about Elastica as a band. So their music definitely like resonated more with Americans than it did the Brits, because in part to the fact that their album, it was like a mix of Riot Girl and alternative rock, heavy rock, whatever you want to call it, hard rock. The thing about that was that like their songs weren't feminist, so they couldn't really appeal to like the girl bands of the 90s in America, but they also couldn't appeal to the British audience because they didn't sound like a Britpop band. They never really like claimed to be feminists. They were never like a feminist band, but they did have songs that were like very frank about sex and really like straightforward, like the song Vaseline or the song Stutter. It's that sort of like frankness and stuff that kind of made them popular in the US. But yeah, so it's not really like a Britpop album, but the members themselves were so like in the scene because, you know, it's like a product of the time. Same thing for Everything Must Go. Like it was sort of a product of the time. Elastica didn't sound like Britpop, but they were labeled as such because Justine was basically dating two halves of the big four. I think I'm going to put it at D tier because like it's not on par. Actually, you know, it is on par with Leisure. That's true. Okay. So next is Suede, Dogman Star. I already talked about this a little bit. So their self-titled album, they kind of invented Britpop in a way. They sort of like established the sound as like a scene. They got bigger than Blur did with Blur's first album. Like Suede like blew up. And even though, you know, the themes in their songs weren't really repeated in Oasis or Blur's song, because I really do think that like none of the Gallagher brothers would be caught dead wearing feminine clothing and dropping songs about taboo topics like incest and like gay sex, even though gay sex is not taboo and it shouldn't be. But, you know, at the time. So Dogman Star, from their first album, it got weirder. It got more pretentious. And I think as an album, from an objective standpoint, it's better than their self-titled album. But it didn't have any, like, awesome just rock songs. It was more artsy. That means that Dogman Star gets a C. Blah. It does get a C, though. Okay. And since we did Dogman Star, and I've been talking about their self-titled album this whole time, so Suede's self-titled debut is an S tier. There's no denying that. It's an S tier. I don't know, like, what else it would be. You know, it's just, like, that good. So Blur's self-titled album is an F tier. I do not like this album. So this is when they try to get experimental, and it doesn't work. Blur's self-titled album, not Britpop, dude. It just wasn't. It just was not it, Chief, and it makes me sad. It makes me very sad. Supergrass's album, In It for the Money. Okay, this album is basically like full throttle. It's Britpop. It's well established, just pure Britpop. It's fun. It's funky. It's fresh. Gaz Coombs can't really like go wrong, I think, in keeping with his like signature style. I'm gonna put it at A tier, which is higher than I Should Coco, but guess what? I don't care. Pitchfork can suck my ass. Anyways, let's move on. So, Pulp, This Is Hardcore. This album got like super, super awesome reviews. It was a bit more experimental than their albums before, which wasn't a bad thing. I think unlike Blur's self-titled album, Pulp's This Is Hardcore, when they were experimental and went outside the box, it paid off in a really big way. But it came out in like 1998, and Britpop was definitely like on its way out at that point. You know what I mean? So Pulp's This Is Hardcore is going into B tier because I want it to, and also like it's good. It's good. But it doesn't like define Britpop, you know what I mean? Great Escape by Blur. That's my favorite Blur album. Oh my gosh, I love it so much. Mr. Robinson's Quango is a bop, and so is Country House, and so is Charmless Man. I am putting it at A tier because do I think that it has the same influence as Parklife? No. Do I think it's better than Parklife? Yes. But does it? Oh, I'm putting it at S tier. I don't care what other people think. Okay, it's better than Parklife, but I feel like I have an obligation to put Parklife at S tier just because if I don't, they're gonna get mad at me. Haters gonna hate. Gene! Okay, so Gene is this band that had like one good album. They're basically like the Smiths without Johnny Marr's guitar, but their lead singer, he sounds just like Morrissey. It's kind of crazy. But they weren't really like popular compared to the other Britpop fans. They were definitely less popular than The Verve. Some of you who are like British or well-versed in Britpop lore might be like, why is The Verve not on here? It's because I don't like them and I don't care. And so they're not on the list because I don't like them. Gene, I love Gene. C tier because I love it. It wasn't like the best album, but it's like they were there. The last one is This Is My Truth, Tell Me Yours by the Manic Street Preachers. I love this album. And it's a really, 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 really good album. It's a banger. Well, it's not a banger. It's actually kind of sad too. But, you know, it was sort of also on the tail end of Britpop when people were like, okay, the Manics aren't Britpop. But I want to put it on this list because I love it. And so I'm putting it at D tier because it wasn't really Britpop and it wasn't really trying to be. They were still being grouped into the scene by people at that time. So, yeah. This is my list. My Britpop ranking list. So, I hope you all enjoyed this video. And goodbye.